So it looks like it's working, but I've got it's a bit shaky on the video, but I think it works. If anybody is here already, hey, Sasha, how's it going? Good to see you. Sasha, since you are here, please let me know if my video works. I'm not quite sure because I had a little bit of ruckeln just now. Yeah, please let me know if it works. It looks good now. It looks quite well, actually. Looks good. Great. Awesome. Give me a second. The coughing. Need a sip of water. Here we go. Hey, Saga. Good to see you. It's working. Good. Great. Awesome. Because I've said everything's new here. I've set up a whole new office because yesterday I ordered a second desk because my one single desk just wasn't large enough for all the stuff that has been collecting over the time. And I got my second desk yesterday, and then I rebuilt everything, and I think it's going to start to work. The light's a little bit off still, have to work on that, but bear with me. I think we're just going to go streaming today and do the show. So welcome, everybody. This is the AWS Quiz Certification Quiz discussion and show and so forth. We are going to discuss a number of questions that I have posted on YouTube throughout the last couple of weeks. And you can, hey, Joël Farvaux. I'll try to pronounce that correctly, Joël Farvaux. I don't know if is it pronounced French? I'm not sure about that, but great to see you. Good that you're on the show. Thing is, in the chat, I can see chat from YouTube and Twitch, and now my camera broke down. No! What happened? Give me a second. Oh, shit. Okay, now something crashed. Something crashed. Let's see if I come back. Okay, that's this one. Now you can see my face. The thing around my face. Let me see. Just 1 second. Getting back here. Now I still have that thing on my face. Oh, that's if you want to try to work and it just doesn't. Give me a second. I need to. Good thing I have my pants on. Wait. Yeah, I really do. So I need to go here to my camera. Okay. I hope it works. Good thing I have my pants. Okay, so we don't have this box around my head. Oh, now we do. Oh, please. Oh, please. Okay, I'll do this. I'll pull up my screen this way. I still have the box because my camera, for some reason, my camera doesn't know that it's running. Well, it knows that it's running, but it doesn't know that it's broadcasting. So it still shows me the autofocus thing, but I don't want it to autofocus. Let me see. Where's that? Oh, hey, Katikeyan. Good to see you. So how do I get rid of this box? This way? No. Anyway, I have this box around my head. I'm not going to get rid of it now. I will fix it later, but let's get on with the show. So, hey, I'm Dennis. I'm the person with the autofocus box around there. We're going to talk about a couple of AWS certification questions, practice questions that I've posted on YouTube, and you can find all the links in the description of this actually on YouTube, not on Twitch, for those of you who are on Twitch. But this is mostly, most of the guests are on YouTube, I guess. Let's see, where are you all from? I can see Sasha is here from Germany. I know Sasha personally. He's a good old friend of mine. Joël, your name is pronounced French, but where do you come from? Are you from French Canada, maybe Western Africa? Where are you from? And everybody else, let's just do a quick round. Where are you all from? Just for me to see where you're from. Over here, It is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Let me know what time it is at where you're at. And while you do that, I keep on trying to get rid of this thing. I can't see it anymore. Good. India, Chennai. Katia Khan is from India. Katikeyan, I'm sorry, is from India. Zaga is from India. Cool. The first, it's 6:38 p.m. Indian. Is that IST? Is that Indian Standard Time? Hey, Linda, good to see you. Great to have you on the show. Linda's a good friend of mine. I just had her. By the way, since and I have that box again. Anyway, I try not to care about it now. So anyway, if you speak German, there's a podcast, and Linda actually was my last guest. I had her on the show last week. So if you speak German, feel free to check out the podcast. If you don't, never mind, you're probably not going to understand anything. However, I am going to start now. And this thing is really distracting me. I should, if I move, yeah, I can do that. I can move my browser window so I don't see my own video. But I only need to see the chat anyway. Okay, cool. First of all, the week before last, I did a mistake. We were talking about a question that most of you answered correctly. And the question was, what type of Amazon CloudFront distribution should you use for media streaming? We had 4 options: web distribution, media distribution, RTMP distribution, and edge distribution. And most of you answered, and I told you this was correct, C, RTMP distribution. However, what I learned now is that RTMP is not supported on CloudFront anymore. This is really important because RTMP is based on the Adobe Flash format, and Adobe has moonlighted Flash, so it has been retired. So we also retired RTMP. Very rarely ever we discontinue services because our customers rely on them working, no matter how technology changes over time. However, since Adobe doesn't support Flash anymore, and we cannot make sure that there aren't any vulnerabilities, and using that technology and RTMP as a streaming format, we had to discontinue this. So it would have been correct in this case if you, and some of you actually have answered web distribution. So all RTMP distributions need to be migrated to web distribution because RTMP is an outdated, vulnerable format. That was just one thing that I wanted to put out there so that you are aware of that. We won't ask this question in the certification anymore, just because it used to be right. Now it's not right anymore. So just for you to know, you won't mess up your certification score by this because you won't be asked anymore. However, it's good to know. Good, great. So what do you think? Let's get into it. Let me see. I'll put that down here. I somehow need to see your comments while I'm presenting this. Okay, so here we go. Let's go into the first question. First question I had 2 weeks ago on Monday: which of the following is not, and that's important. Always read the question. Read it again. Which of the following is not a valid routing policy for Amazon Route 53? Now, again, it's up to you, chat. Please let me know in the chat, what do you think? Is it A, simple routing policy? Is it B, failover routing policy? Is it C, load balancing? Or is it D, latency-based routing policy? A, B, C, or D? Let me know in the chat. And while you do that, I will have a look at the comments. We have, okay, here, that's great. I'll put that up. Saga, hey, I'm new here. Welcome. It's great to have you here. Can you provide an overview and for which AWS cert you discuss questions? So These questions are mostly for the AWS Solutions Architect Associate certification. This show basically is a bi-weekly recap. So every 2 weeks on Fridays, I run a 1-hour show where I run through a number of questions, and I'm putting up those questions over the course of 2 weeks. I'm putting out questions every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and it's always just a single question. And let me see, let me get the, where's my browser? Let me get the link real quick. YouTube.com. I've got a playlist with all my questions. I should have copied the link before. Here we go. Here we go. So no, that's from 2 days ago. Here's the one from today. I'll copy this. I'll just put that in the chat for you. This is one, but I have a playlist, and I always add them to the playlist. So I put out videos with just one single question that is real quick. It's less than a minute. Just one single question where you can answer yourself, and in the end, I provide the answer. But since the format of those short videos doesn't allow me to discuss the answer and why it's correct and why the other ones are wrong, I'm running this show every 2 weeks on Fridays at 3 p.m. my time, and different times wherever you are. But I'm running these to really go into details and explain a bit why the answers are correct, why they aren't correct, and also to give you the chance to ask your questions, basically, because sometimes it's a little more involved than just giving a single answer. So yeah, this one is a good one. Katikayan, thanks for sharing, Dennis. I also encountered recently on S3. S3 is no longer eventual consistency for override puts and delete. Can you please advise which ones to select henceforth? So one of the important things is, yes, that's right. S3 went to immediate consistency when it comes to pretty much everything. And in the past, some operations used to be eventually consistent. Since this has changed, we won't ask this anymore because it is ambiguous. You might not know. Is it still? We try to keep our questions current. And if that's really hard because people don't really know which one to take, we just don't use those questions. Usually when there's a new feature, it takes about 6 months for it to show up in the questions. But if there's something that was one way before and now is a different way after, we usually don't use these questions because people may have studied at a point in time where it still was the old way, or some documentation, or especially when it's third-party documentation. Our documentation is current, but especially if you use third-party documentation or written books with questions that can't be updated that quickly, we usually don't ask these questions anymore. So from a practical perspective, yes, it is correct that S3 is immediately consistent. From a certification perspective, it doesn't make a difference because we won't ask this question anymore. And if you come across this question anyway in the certification, please let me know, because then I'm going to call the training and certification guys and let them know that this needs to be changed. Okay, cool. Let's have a look. We do have a number of answers. Load balancing, C. Linda has said C. Thumbless66 is here again. Great to see you. Thanks for coming back. C. So you all are correct. A load balancing routing policy is not a thing. We have a number of routing policies, not only the ones on the screen here. We have a number more. But really, the only one on this list that does not exist is a load balancing routing policy. If you need load balancing, you will have to put a load balancer behind Route 53. I get to that, Kayan, in a second, to your question. Simple routing policy, that's simple. It is you have one route. Whenever somebody uses that domain name, that address, it goes to a specific resource. So like, for instance, to an EC2 instance or to a load balancer. Failover routing policy means that you basically have you have your main route, and whenever that fails, so the resource behind that route fails, it will fail over to another one. So you have an active resource, you have a passive resource, and whenever the active resource fails, it's not available, it will go to the other one. Then D, the latency-based routing policy. This simply means that Route 53 will send the client to a resource that is regionally closest most of the time to the client, so that the latency is small. So if you run a global website, for instance, and you have service in India, and you have service in the US, and you have maybe servers in Europe, depending on where people come from, they will be routed to different regions. That's that. So the correct one would be, let me see here. This one, load balanced routing is not a valid routing policy. Now, just real quick, how about AWS Solution Architect? Okay, that's probably, yeah, that was probably some lag. You won't get these questions. And if you do, please let me know, because then I can go back to the team, to the training and certification team, and tell them that this shouldn't be asked anymore. And you won't fail because of this question. That should not happen. That wouldn't be a good thing. Okay, cool. Next question. After discovering that HTTPS was not allowed to reach instances via, I got a typo there, via a security group, you have added a rule to allow inbound HTTPS. How long will it take for your changes to take effect? A, does it take effect immediately? B, around about 30 seconds. C, around about a minute. Or is it D, immediately for instances, but longer if you have an elastic load balancer in front? Let me know in the chat. Is it A, B, C, or D? And while you're thinking about this and posting in the chat, please, I'm sorry, I've got another drink. And it's water, I promise. I'm getting the first answers, and while you're answering, HTTPS, what port would that be? That's a bonus question for you. If you wanna open up HTTPS on a security group, which port would you have to open? And in the answers, I can see it's A immediately. Very nice. Thumbless says A. Exactly. A is the correct answer. It is immediate. It doesn't make a difference if you have an elastic load balancer in front or not. The security group is directly attached to the network interface, to a so-called ENI, Elastic Network Interface, which is a software-defined network interface attached to your EC2 instance. And as soon as you change the security group rule, it immediately takes effect, because every package that tries to get in through the security group will be filtered if it's not allowed. And so whatever you define on this in the security group, it will take effect immediately, because it is just an IP filter. And even if you have an ELB in front, you may get through the ELB, but the instance itself will allow HTTPS once you set that, so it will work. And Saga has it right. The port for HTTPS, the secure, the encrypted HTTP, would be 443. And HTTP itself would be the port 80. These are the standard ports. So in this case, A is correct. Very good, everyone. It takes effect immediately. Next question. Which of the following statements about peered VPCs is false? Now again, always read the question and make sure to really understand the question. If necessary, read it twice. Here, important here is there is a false. So which one is false? We've got A, both VPCs do not need to be in the same region. B, both VPCs do not need to be in the same account. C, both VPCs will automatically have routing set up when the connection is created. And D, traffic can flow in both directions by default. Which one is it? Is it A, B, C, or D? What do you think, chat? And one thing that's really interesting here, because we just discussed the fact that something has changed and what has been correct now is not correct anymore when it comes to eventual consistency on S3. One of the important things here is this is a similar situation. One of those answers used to be wrong in the past, but it has changed over time and it is correct now. But why do I have it in here, you say? Because I told you that when we have conflicting information and we change something, we usually don't use it in the certification. And I'm going into that as soon as we have looked at the answers. So we have B, D, B, and A. Puburu, great to see you. Thanks for joining. Thanks for taking part in the quiz. Okay. Both VPCs do not need to be in the same region. So we do have cross-region peering. You can peer between different regions. So this isn't the one that is false. Then we have B. Both VPCs do not need to be in the same account. So in this, hey, Hemanand, good to see you. Also, you can peer VPCs that are in different accounts. And in fact, this is very often the case because many organizations have different accounts for different workloads. And they may have one networking account where they have a VPC that maybe is connected to their VPN, and they peer to other VPCs in other accounts. So it's very important to be able to peer between different accounts. Then we have C. C, both VPCs will automatically have routing set up when the connection is created. And this one actually is the correct answer to this because they do not automatically have routing set up. You still have to create your route tables and you still have to add the other VPC, the peering connection, to the route table. Again, it's very important to properly read the question because there's a false in the question. And it's also important to properly read the answers because A and B both have a not in there. And that's really important. So that could trip you up. And D, traffic can flow in both directions by default. It can. But one thing that I wanted to talk about is really A. In the past, we didn't allow cross-region VPC peering. So all the peering needed to happen inside of one region. But we had changed this and we announced cross-region VPC peering. And now you ask, why do I have this question here? Because it used to be different and now it is this. And people who learned for the old variant could have the wrong answer. And the answer to this really is this happened years ago. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it was at least 3 years ago that we announced cross-region VPC peering. And after some time, we reintroduced the question because we expect people who are trying to get certified on AWS to be aware of that fact because it has been around for a couple of years. Good. So that's that. Hemanand, good to see you. And I have a question for you, the last one today. Hemanand actually pointed me to a mistake I made in one of my questions on YouTube, and we are going to talk about this one later today as well. But first, the next one. You have a VPC in US East 1 with 3 subnets. One of those subnets traffic is routed to an internet gateway. What does this make this subnet? And this really is about terminology, and this is really important terminology in AWS, especially networking. So does it make this a private subnet, B, a restricted subnet, C, a public subnet, or does it make it D, the main subnet? of that VPC. What do you think, chat? Is it A, B, C, or D? Private, restricted, public, or main? We have an answer here. Pubudu says C. Anybody else? C, it's C. Yeah, that's correct. That's totally right. That's totally right. And this is very important. A subnet, there is, Linda says C as well, great. So there is no such thing as a public subnet. So you don't have a switch, don't have a configuration to say this subnet should be public and this should be private. All you need to do is set a route to an internet gateway, and each subnet that has access to this route through its routing table is by definition a public subnet. So whenever a subnet has access to an internet gateway, it is by definition a public subnet. If it doesn't have access to the internet gateway, it's a private subnet. So private subnet and public subnet are the two terms here that are important to distinguish. B doesn't make any sense. There is no such thing as a restricted subnet on AWS. And D, the main subnet of this VPC doesn't make any sense either, because there is no main subnet. Each subnet is just a subnet in the VPC. There is no main and not main. Cool. Everyone got it right. So the next one, and this one's interesting because most of you and also other people on YouTube gave the wrong answer, because the wrong answer is technically correct, but it's not very sensical. And I will get into that in a second. First, the question: why would you set the expiration period on a CloudFront distribution to 0? A, to expire all content on all existing edge locations. B, to ensure caching does not occur for maximum throughput. C, to reduce the chances of a DDoS attack on your edge locations. D, to ensure the most up-to-date content is served at all edge locations. So what do you think, chat? Is it A, B, C, or D? And this trips a lot of people up, and probably for a reason, and the distinction is really important. Most people say, all people say A. Okay, A, we have A. Everybody says A. That's nice, because actually that is the correct answer. To expire all content on all existing edge locations. What do you do by setting the distribution expiration period to 0? Saga, great. So Saga says D. Saga says D. And actually, you are right. It is correct, but it is not the correct answer. And I'll tell you why. So A, you have content in the edge locations. So you use CloudFront distribution, which is a CDN, a content delivery network. And if you want to actively expire everything so that all the edge locations go back and retrieve the latest content whenever a request comes, you set it to 0. This is what you can do it for. If I'm going through the answers, B, to ensure caching does not occur for maximum throughput. Well, caching does not occur if you set it to 0, but actually it makes it slower. Maximum throughput, maximum throughput would mean it needs to be quick. You want high throughput, you want low latency, but if you don't cache, you make it actually less performance. So B doesn't make any sense. C, to reduce the chances of a DDoS attack on your edge locations. There is no relationship between the two at all. So using that doesn't make any difference. People can DDoS your edge locations anyway, and we, with AWS Shield, we protect our infrastructure, and by that, your infrastructure, from DDoS attacks. Now let's get to D, and this is the important thing. Saga said D, and Saga is very right. And most of you, and many other people on the specific video answered with D as well. Because If you set the CloudFront distribution to 0, you ensure the most up-to-date content is served at all edge locations. So technically, that is correct. Practically, it doesn't make any sense because in this case, you defy the purpose of a CDN. In this case, it would make, if you always want the most up-to-date content, you wouldn't want to use caching. If you don't want to use caching, you wouldn't need to use CloudFront. And you probably shouldn't, because that would mean an additional hop for your traffic. If you really want to make sure that you always have the most up-to-date content, you really shouldn't go through a cache, because caching wouldn't make sense. You really should go to the origin of the resource or the data. Then you wouldn't use a CDN. However, in most cases, a little bit of caching is in order, because for the most pieces of information, they don't need to be entirely current. And this is where a CDN comes in. This is where CloudFront comes in. CloudFront provides a cache, which makes it much more performant to the expense of sometimes you don't get the most current content. And with the expiration period, you can define the time window for those to make them current or not. And for everybody who is new, who came in here after that, don't mind the box around my head. My camera thinks it is not on, so it shows me the autofocus box. I try not to distract it. I hope you can too. So for everyone, A is the correct answer. D is a very good answer. It is technically correct, but it would defy the purpose of a CDN. And this is important. And this is important. I'm missing the word. I'm blanking out. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So for everyone who came to the show, welcome. This is the AWS Certification Quiz Show. I run this every 2 weeks, where I talk about a number of questions. I post all those questions on YouTube. There's a playlist with all of them. I'm at, I don't know, 35, 36 questions now. They're all not even a minute long. It's called the 1 minute AWS Certification Quiz, where every 2 days you get a new question that is very closely aligned to the actual AWS questions. And this is a way for you to either study for the exam, and there are a number of people who have actually passed in the recent weeks and told me that they used these questions to study. And some of them, I was hoping that Ujjwal would be here today. I was hoping that Ujjwal would be here today, because Ujjwal just passed his certification, and he was on the show from the beginning. He was here all the time, and it was really fun having him on the show, because you could really see how he was learning and how he was diving into the material. And he just got his certification, which is great. So I guess if he comes by, it's probably more to meet friends instead of studying for the certification. Anyway, if you don't study for a certification, this is also great to brush up your cloud skills, to learn a little bit about AWS. Thumbless, yes. I thought it was the recognition kicking. Yeah, my camera recognizes my face. Not really. It just recognizes that there is a face, and it shows me that it recognizes this for the auto zoom. But the camera does not recognize the fact that it is being used right now, and it should not display this thing. Anyway, I'll fix this later. I just didn't want to do that during the stream and didn't want to waste any time. Let's see. So setting 0 will renew the data every second, or just when new content is published? Setting it to new means that to 0. Setting it to 0 means that whenever you have a cache miss, so whenever there is a request hitting the cache and the cache realizes, the CDN, CloudFront Edge Location, realizes, oh, I don't have it. It goes back to the origin and retrieves it and stores it locally. For the next one, for the next request that wants the same resource, the same content, to say, hey, we have a cache hit. Here it is. I don't need to retrieve it from the origin. Here it is. And you set this number, and for each of the items in the cache, this number means how long it will be retained in the cache. And if this is set to 0, it will be immediately deleted. So it will, after 0 seconds, so after no time, it will be deleted. What technically what happens is that you have a cache miss. The cache gets the piece of data from the origin, sends it to the requester, stores it locally, and immediately deletes it again because it has a retention rate of an expiration period of 0. So data will be locally cached, but it will immediately be deleted again. So that just expires everything in the cache. And so setting 0 will renew all data in the cache. The cache gets invalidated by setting it to 0, and that's what it is about. So each item in the cache, each item that is cached, will get its expiration period set to 0, and by setting it to 0, the cache will automatically delete it because the time of 0 has passed. This is cache invalidation. If you want to invalidate your CloudFront Edge cache, this is how you do it. But it wouldn't make any sense to leave it at 0, because that first eats up resources because it stores it in the cache to immediately delete it. And second, it defies the purpose of a cache. Does that make sense? So here, that was the question by Hermanand. Does the cache get invalidated? And that's exactly the point. You do that to invalidate your cache. Next question. Okay. You want to cut off all access to your Amazon S3 buckets when a certain cost threshold is reached. Which tool allows you to do this? And this one's for you, Hermanand. This one is the question for you because you actually got it right. I got it wrong. Not really. And we'll talk about why. You want to cut off all access to your S3 buckets. So you have an S3 bucket and people are accessing it, writing into it, reading from it, and you want to cut this access off once a certain amount of cost has been reached. To do this, which one do you use? A, AWS Trusted Advisor. B, AWS Cost Explorer. C, AWS Budgets. Or D, none of the above. Tumblr says D, Pubudu says B. Hermanand knows the answer. So I don't want you to answer. I mean, you can, of course. Anybody else? What do you think? C, AWS Budgets. Good thinking. So we have Tumblr says D, Pubudu says B. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Kavala, great to see you on the show. Great, happy that you joined. It says D. Linda says C. Pubudu. I guess Pubudu changed his mind to C, which is cool. Hermanand knows it's C and D. Katiyakan Balaswamy says D. Hermanand, I'm sorry to have to break it to you. It still is none of the above. However, you are right. So let me go through those. A, Trusted Advisor. Trusted Advisor doesn't do anything for you. It advises you. It tells you things about security, costs, performance issues, and so forth. The AWS Cost Explorer, B, this just helps you look into where cost has been incurred. You can really drill down into the data to understand and analyze your costs on AWS to improve and to optimize costs, but you can't automate anything on top of that. C is AWS Budgets, and AWS Budgets is a feature that allows you to set a limit, a budget that you don't want to cross. And what you can do is you can set a budget alarm, and this will tell you, send you a message or put a message on an SNS topic whenever that budget is reached, or most likely to be reached after a certain amount of time. AWS Budgets can do this. So with the help of AWS Budget, you can then automatically cut off all access, but not with AWS Budgets alone. AWS Budgets does not have a feature that allows you to do that. Hemanand will say, not true. And I say, you're right, but I am too. Wait a second, I'll tell you why. So none of these services by itself can actually do that. With AWS Budget, you can easily automate it by using the feature of AWS Budgets that triggers an alarm, and then you can automate the processing. Now, what am I talking about regarding Hemanand? He said the following. He said that since not very long ago, there are AWS Budget actions. So you can, since some time ago, a few months ago, you can define actions that whenever a certain threshold is reached, AWS Budgets automatically takes an action. And that's called AWS Budget actions. And one of those actions can be to restrict all access. That can be that nobody, that you say, as soon as a certain threshold is reached, I want nobody in the account to be able to start new instances or store more data or do whatever through the API. So you can effectively deny the creation of new resources through AWS Budget actions. However, what this cannot do is deny read access to S3. And this is a very important point here. And Hemanand, please let me know if I try to explain it. It's a little involved. So I try to explain it in a way for everyone to understand it. And if you don't understand it, please let me know in the chat. There's no shame in that. I'm just trying to explain, and you can always ask if you didn't get it. So if you have an object in an S3 bucket, and you have this budget action, and this budget action basically says, I will deny everything. Basically, I will deny all API calls throughout the entire account. Then nobody is able to create a new object in the bucket. However, if your bucket is publicly accessible, then people don't need to use the API because people can directly access the object. So they can still read the object, and the object being read will incur you will have transfer costs, just a little bit. It is really inexpensive, but you do have data transfer out of AWS to the client, to the requester, and this will lead to a certain amount of cost. So with AWS Budget actions, you can deny all API calls, but you're not able to deny access to resources that are publicly available. So when they don't go through the API. Does that make sense? Hemanand, please let me know if this makes sense. And that's an important point. While, give me a second. Let me open this real quick. I'll post a link here real quick. AWS Budget actions. I know it's budget here. I get to your question in a second. Here's that link. I've posted it in the chat. That link. We announced AWS Budget actions, and with these actions, you can deny API calls. You can basically deny everything on an API basis. But if you want to restrict read access where you don't need the API, you still need to go through SNS and the Lambda function. Now to Hemanand's question. What if we have huge number of data reads? So, and that's the point. Imagine you have a bucket with video files, and they're huge. They're really big. And whenever somebody reads these, you have data transfer, and data transfer costs a little bit of money. So if people, you have reached your budget and people still can read the data, so you can go beyond your budget. However, you can then, and this is what this question is about, you can then basically, once the budget threshold is reached, trigger a Lambda function that makes all files private. And in that case, nobody can access these files anymore. Once they're private, once they're not publicly accessible anymore, nobody can read them anymore. Once nobody can read them anymore, they're only available through the API. And the API is restricted through the budget action. So it's basically a two-step process. First step, you set up an AWS budget action to deny all access so that nobody is able to create new resources. And second, you trigger a Lambda function that makes all buckets private, if they're public, makes all buckets private so that nobody can read the data anymore. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Good, cool. So that's AWS budget actions. And while I'm here, let me pull out this link real quick. For everyone who has just joined, I'll try not to talk and search things at the same time. Give me a second. Key rotation. Okay. Next question by Hemanand, and now we're getting into the details. But this is great because these are things. I know many of you are just studying for the exam, for the certification, but once you work with AWS, these really are the things that you have to think about. And practical work, practical experience with AWS is really important, and you get that by using there. And I can see that Hemanand is putting a lot of thought into this. And he asks, does key rotation help in that case? The thing is, if you have a key, so if you use KMS is protected through the API. So if you use S3 SSE KMS as an encryption method, so it is encrypted with a KMS customer key, and KMS is the key management service where you can manage all your encryption keys inside of AWS in a very secure, protected manner. These keys are protected through the API. So if you deny everything by an AWS budget action, you also deny using those keys to decrypt data. So if you need a KMS key to decrypt data, you can't access the data anymore. But if you have publicly available data, then that is not encrypted. Otherwise, it wouldn't be publicly available. Because when somebody needs a decryption key, a KMS key, needs access to a KMS key, they have to go through the API. They cannot go through the URL. If you use the built-in encryption method in Amazon S3, which is SSE, SSE stands for server-side encryption. If you use SSE S3, where you have a transparent encryption, then, which means data is stored in an encrypted way on the actual hard drives or SSDs, on the actual pieces of hardware, it is encrypted. So when, in case anybody would take a hard drive and try to plug it into a computer and read from it, it wouldn't work because the data is encrypted. But if you read it through the intended way, like either through the API or through a call to the actual resource, if it is public, it is automatically decrypted, and you cannot rotate the built-in S3 key. You can only rotate KMS keys. So if you use server-side encryption using KMS, it is denied by default, because if nobody can access the key, nobody can access the data. I hope that answers the question. But good thinking, by the way. And thanks again for pointing out that thing, because actually I missed that action part. Right here, keys are not supposed to be used for access controls, even if possible. Yes, that's right. That's a good point. You should not use keys for access control. You should use keys for encryption, decryption, and also for auditing purposes. If you use KMS keys, you are always you can give permissions on a very granular basis. You can, for instance, you can say one person is allowed or one role is allowed to encrypt data, but they're not allowed to decrypt data. And another person or role is allowed to decrypt data, but they're not allowed to encrypt data. And another person or role is allowed to manage keys. And you can really very granularly set the permissions on those. You could even say people are only allowed to use the key to decrypt data during a certain time window. So it only works Monday through Friday, or it only works on this specific date at this specific time. And so you can apply very granular permissions, and also you have an audit trail. You can always see who used which key for what. You can always see who used the key to decrypt some data. You can even set alarms and automation processes where you say, like, I'm storing decrypted data somewhere and nobody should access it. And you can monitor the key, and if the key is being used to decrypt the data, you can then raise an alarm and do some automation because somebody's accessing a key for data that we don't want to be accessed. But you should not use, and that's right, Pubudu, you should not use the key specifically for access control. That's a good point. Yeah, thanks. And again, thanks to you for bringing it up, because I really completely missed that. So here we go. Here's the playlist. I just uploaded a new video today, and I'm gonna keep putting them out 3 a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, every time at around 2 o'clock. I published mine earlier today because I had some work to do. But anyway, I would like to do one thing now, a quick raffle. Let's see, stream elements, as always. No, wait. Give me 1 second. Gonna set this up here. For everyone on YouTube, if you're on Twitch, please come to YouTube because the bot is only monitoring YouTube. And what I'm gonna do now is I will open up another raffle, and I will have another voucher for $25 worth AWS credits. Let me see. Where's my raffle? Where's my console? It's not Stream Elements, it's Stream Labs. It's so many Stream tools. Stream Labs, Stream Elements, Stream Yard, Stream whatnot. Here we go, login, YouTube. That's me. Give me just 1 second, and you get your chance to win $25 of credits for your AWS account. Where's my CloudBot? Here it is. Giveaways. I will start a new giveaway now. Here we go. So there should be a chat message in just 1 second from the chatbot, letting you know about the giveaways. Yeah, here we go. So everyone, please type !raffle to enter the raffle. And while you're doing this, one more thing, I'll add this here. Hemanand, please, without the space. It really needs to be !and raffle, just like Pubudu and Siva did. Okay, and while you're doing that, please, we at AWS, we are a very data-driven company. And since this is all virtual and I can see you. I'm happy that you're in the chat and interacting, but I cannot see you and we don't have a chance to really talk. And I really would like to understand how I'm doing. How does this work for you? Is it good? Does it make sense? Does it bring value? So behind this address, and I'll post it in the chat real quick. Behind this address, please give me your feedback. This is anonymous, so I will not know who wrote what. Please give me your feedback. Let me know if you like it, if it's helpful, what do you think? Maybe there's something I could do better, because this really helps me understand what I can do. I would really appreciate the help. And of course, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So let's see. We have in the raffle, we do have, and I'll put that on the, yeah, I've got that up here. I don't need to put it here. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people in the raffle. A number of new names, which is really great. Let's see. We've got 9 people on the call. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 are missing. Maybe you don't want to take part, which is totally fine. I'll give it another minute. Please make sure to give me feedback while you're doing this. I will close the entries. Your name is Sean. That's good. Okay, good to know. I'll close the entries. Now the chatbot should say something. You can no longer enter the referral. And now I'm going to pick a winner. Good luck, everyone. Good luck, everyone. Okay, let's see. Who is it? Kartikeyan Balaswamy has won the AWS credit voucher worth $25. Congratulations. You were a really great contributor today. Everyone was. It was really fun working with you today. I'm looking forward to the next time. And Kavla Ben Said, thank you so much. Thank you for being on the show. I appreciate all of you being here. I appreciate the time. And I really appreciate the questions. Kartikeyan, please get in touch with me through this address. I'll put it in the chat, and I put it here as well. Please get in touch with me. Let me know that you're the winner, and I'll make sure to send you the credits. Cool. The next question will be live, or there's one today. I'm looking forward to having you answer this one today, and the next one will be live next Monday, and I will see you again 2 weeks from now. Thank you so much. Next time, it's going to be without the thing around my head. Okay? Okay, cool. Thanks. Take care. Goodbye.